Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm your host, Corey Graham. Join us here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where the independent new authors come first. I'm looking at a children's book that's a tale of farm life and friendship. It's written by Mary Murphy, and it's titled Flynn's Big Surprise, and it's part of the Adventures of Flynn and Ruby series. Mary is joining me right here, right now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We get to talk all about this book. Mary, welcome. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Mary, I'm curious to learn all about Flynn's Big Surprise. Can you tell me all about it?
Well, the book really is about welcoming somebody new into your home and your life, like Flynn had to do when Ruby came along as a pup. Flynn was in charge of the farm and had all the attention, and then she had to welcome a little sister.
Mary, what kinds of readers did you have in mind for this?
Well, it's really interesting. I was thinking children who like bedtime stories, but I really wanted the book to be enjoyed by the person reading it too. But I'm noticing that even children that are 10 and 11 are enjoying the book too.
So what was that spark, Mary? What was that inspiration that made you get started on this?
Well, I've just a lot of thought about how, sharing what goes on the farm and watching our dogs' activities and their adventures and things they do and wanting to share that with other people and think it's just a fun thing. Kids are always curious and want to be exposed to new things, and these are actual stories that happened.
Prior to this, Mary, have you ever written or been published?
I have not been published. I've written a lot of poetry and other things, but never published. Never attempted to be published either.
Well, congratulations on getting this first one out there. So, being your first published one, Mary, was this a long journey, the writing and the publishing and everything?
Yeah, it was quite a journey, quite a learning experience. Yes.
So once you handed that manuscript off to your publisher, Christian Faith, and you began working with them, what did you find to be the most challenging part of that publishing end of things?
I was very intimidated about all the loops you had to go through to get it published, so I was really thankful that they did all the copywriting and all that sort of thing. It was just a lot of back and forth with editing and making sure that my meaning came correctly, and then the illustrations, because pictures are as much a part of a book like that as words. Mm-hmm. You want children to sit and look at the pictures, even if nobody's reading to them.
Was that a smooth process, getting those illustrations just the way you wanted?
It took a while, but in the end, yes.
So that day finally came for you. You opened up your mailbox and that first copy finally arrived. It's a real thing now. You got to hold it in your hands. Mary, what was that moment like for you?
It was very exciting. I had just come home. It was pretty late, and there they were sitting on the porch. And when I opened it, I actually went back to my daughter's house to show her.
And now that you're officially a published author, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
I think the feedback I've gotten. I had one mother come tell me her son wants it read to him every night.
Oh, wow.
He has 2 or 3 books, but it's always one that's included. And I have so many people come up to me and ask me to see real pictures of Ruby and Flynn.
I notice this is part of the Adventures of Flynn and Ruby series, so do you plan for more ahead of this?
I already have 5 written. And so, I'm going to keep going with it. Quite a few. There's a lot of tales to tell.
So a lot of people who are listening to us right now are authors who are just starting out in this whole thing. So, Mary, do you have maybe some advice that you could offer?
Don't get discouraged and stick with it. Don't be bogged down by trying to fit everything within the block of how it's supposed to be written. Have fun with it. Don't let the fun not happen.
Yeah, it's really important. So this is a big deal. There's a lot of things involved, a lot of work. Mary, did you have people around you in your life that could maybe keep you going, keep you motivated and encouraged as you went along?
Oh, yeah, my family is very supportive and was excited at every step. And, yeah, it was a whole family project.
Again, the book is titled Flynn's Big Surprise. It's part of the Adventures of Flynn and Ruby series. It's written by Mary Murphy, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available really everywhere, like Amazon, and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Mary, thank you so much again for coming on the show. It was really great talking with you.
I really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you.
Rhymes for the Times. That's the new book written by John O. Gray. And I get to find out all about it. John is sitting here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. John, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, John. Can you tell me what readers are going to be getting into with Rhymes for the Times?
Actually, Corey, Rhymes for the Time is a book that I came up with. And the reason I came up with the book was all people are actually impacted from previous generations in a positive or negative way. Looking at my environment, I came up with a lot of different things I'd seen. And I came up with an idea how to reach the masses with rhymes. And I looked at life circumstances, and I came up with the idea how to actually put those situations, circumstances that people deal with in rhyme form.
So once you got started on this, John, was this a long process to write and publish and everything?
Actually, Corey, it took me 2 years to actually complete the book. And I actually wrote the book from a lot of personal experiences as well.
So prior to this, have you written or been published, or is this all kind of new for you?
This is my first publication. As a child, Corey, I actually came from a dysfunctional family. And I was the victim of not having a father, family secrets, different things that actually went on in my life. And I began to look around at my cousins, my nieces, my nephews, and their family members, actually people in my neighborhood, and we all suffer from the same things. And that actually encouraged me to write the book from my experiences. And not having a father, I saw the need that I was actually missing. And I decided to actually put together this book.
So once you had your manuscript ready and started working with the publisher, with Covenant Books, what did you find the most challenging part of that publishing process for you?
The most challenging process, Corey, was actually finding the proper publisher. I reached out to maybe 3 other publishers. They did not contact me. And myself, I am a Bible-believing Christian, and I reached out to Covenant. We talked. They asked me to send the manuscript. In less than 24 hours, they actually contacted me back, told me that they were greatly impressed with the manuscript, and they said a lot of things that they read in the manuscript was actually relevant to situations, circumstances that a lot of young people in America are dealing with today, especially among the Black community. We teamed up, and here we are.
So after all the time and work that you put into it, that day finally came and your first copy came in and you were holding it for that first time, John. What was that like when you were holding Rhymes for the Times for that very first time?
Corey, actually, I was stunned for a moment. And briefly, I couldn't believe it. So I looked at my wife. My wife is my best friend, and she's helped me along the process. I looked at my wife. I grabbed my wife, and we hugged one another. And we stood in the middle of our living room and just cried together. So it was a great time for my wife and I. The things that we went through, the pressures, being rejected, and finally it happened. So I was actually elated for my wife as well.
So yeah, it's official. You're a published author now. So John, when you think about that, what's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Corey, the most rewarding aspect of writing this book is I believe that my mission has been accomplished. I've received some tremendous responses from at least a half dozen people. And all 6 people responded to the very first poem that was in the book. And the first poem in the book is entitled Father Me. And I got some tremendous responses from that particular poem as well. Matter of fact, one of my church members has a granddaughter. And he told me that Johnny said, when I read that poem, he said, right away I thought about my granddaughter. See, my granddaughter, she's a very bright intellectual, has 2 master's degrees. And he said, but she's having father issues. And I said, wow. So he said, Johnny said, got on the phone immediately, and I called my granddaughter. He said he read the poem to her, and his granddaughter just broke down over the phone, began to cry. So the book, thus far, is accomplishing what the intent was, is to actually help and reach people who come from bad relationships, a bad family environment. And as I said earlier, I was a victim of that. Family secrets, people lying to me, adults lying to me. And it's accomplishing what I wanted to do, is to help other people deal with their circumstances that they deal with.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like this book is really going to inspire and uplift a lot of readers. Again, it's titled Rhymes for the Times. It's written by John O. Gray, published by Covenant Books, and available places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, John, it's been great talking with you tonight, learning all about Rhymes for the Times. Thanks again for being here.
Corey, thank you for inviting me, and look forward to speaking to you in the future, sir.
The new book by Lori A. Manson Futrell is a journey of faith, perseverance, and spiritual growth. It's titled The Value of Process, When Destiny Meets Reality and Reality Became Her Testimony. And Lori is sitting right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, and we're going to talk all about it. Lori, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Lori, can you tell me all about what readers can expect in The Value of Process?
Well, what they can expect is it's really a 20-year journey. It's my testimony. It references failed marriage, molestation at a young age, things that happen in the dark that we as a child are afraid to talk to our parents about, a lot of mishaps, a lot of just dark clouds in my life. And I wanted to share with people that there is hope at the end of the tunnel.
What sorts of readers did you have in mind when you were working on this?
The readers are whether you're single, married, child, young adult, older, widowed, all types.
So what was that spark, Lori? What gave you the idea to start on this book and publish your story for the world?
Well, I relocated from Tennessee to Texas in 2008, moved back to Tennessee in 2010, and God really dropped in my memory banks to write a book. And I did it. I did it in 7 days. And then what I did was I just folded it in a spiral book and I forgot about it. And years later, 2 years ago, it bubbled up in me again and said, you need to finish the book. And I opened up a journal and saw the last chapter, and I finished writing.
So this is your first book? You've never been published before this?
Never, ever.
So once you had your manuscript already and you started working with Christian Faith and doing that publishing thing, what did you find the most challenging part about that publishing process?
The most challenging part was, it was like 2 years ago where I typed it while I wrote it, and then I typed it. And I like to run with my lines and not put periods. And I submitted it to Christian Faith, and they sent it back to me. And they said, no, we need you to redo this again. We need you to re-edit it for us. And at the time I submitted it and they accepted it, but I told the young lady I couldn't do it. I couldn't afford it. And she said, well, okay, we're going to table this. I'm not going to forget about you. And then a year later, the email came up again and said, how are you doing? I said, I want to go with it now. And I really feel it was preparation and timing, because 2 years ago, I don't think I would have been able to handle it. So it just took a little bit of time. My mom was dying. She was transitioning. My life was a little, I wouldn't say chaotic, but, you have to get to a place where you're settled and you can handle what's coming.
I could only imagine what you were thinking and feeling then whenever you finally got to hold this for the first time and it was a real thing, Lori. What was that moment like?
Oh, I was so excited because in 2010, God told me, write the book. And when you're told write the book, you're looking at these big manuscripts, And I'm like, write a book? You got to be crazy. What do you mean write a book? I can't write a book. And I remember my son telling me, you can write a book. You don't need to write a big book. Just write a book. And that's what I did. So when it came, it's not big. You can read it in about an hour and a half, but it's a book. And nowadays, you lose people on that second chapter if it's too long. I wanted to reach a multitude. I wanted to speak volumes. I wanted to give hope. And that has always been my prayer. Whoever opens it up will have hope when they finish reading.
Well, this book, I think, is going to be a blessing to so many readers. Again, it's titled The Value of Process, When Destiny Meets Reality, and Reality Became Her Testimony. This is written by Lori A. Manson Futrell and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So find it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, also down the street at your local bookshop. Lori, it's been really nice talking with you tonight and learning all about your story. Thanks again for talking with me.
Thank you for having me.
This is a collection of spiritual prose for readers looking to strengthen their faith. It's named Fountains of Faith. It's written by Brian Jacobowitz, and we'll be talking about it right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Brian is joining me. Brian, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Brian, can you tell me all about Fountains of Faith and what you've written about here?
Fountains of Faith, it's funny. It came to me in a strange way. I always said that I never heard God talk to me. And all of a sudden, I was at the computer, and he was starting to talk to me. And whatever he was saying, I was just writing down. And it came out to be poetry, but it's all about God. For someone who can't speak English, I learned how to write really well. So it's all God. It's not me.
Brian, what sorts of readers do you think would be into this the most?
I hope all types, all ages. If I could get through to one person, my job was done. And if you would ask me that a couple of years ago, I would say, you're nuts, but if one person could get through the book and get something out of it, I'm very happy.
So this is the first time you've been published or that you've written a book?
Yes.
Oh, congratulations. Getting that first one out there is such a huge deal. So since it was your first time, this is a lot of new ground for you. Was this a long span of time from beginning to end?
It really wasn't. Like I said, it was all God. And he just kept on feeding me words. And I was typing and somehow they were going together. It was pretty quick. Maybe 7 months, 6 months. There's a lot of poems in that book, yeah.
And once you had your manuscript all ready and started working with your publisher, Covenant Books, you started that publishing process. Brian, what did you find the most challenging part of that for you?
It wasn't really challenging. I was just afraid that no one would be interested in something like that because it is a book about God. And here you got a Jewish guy, born again, writing Christian poems. It's all wild. It really is.
And then once it was finally a real thing, you were holding your first copy, Brian. What was that moment like for you?
It was surreal. I just couldn't believe it. Like I said, what I used to do and what he changed me, I changed my life. It turned me around. I'm somebody. And hopefully I can make somebody else feel the same way.
Now that you're a published author, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
I don't know what to say because it's all God's doing. I don't know what to say. Because already I'm doing another book on raising people up. And already I got like 30 pages of work. So I'm just doing what everyone wants me to do. That's all.
This is a beautiful cover. Was that a tough decision to have that come together?
Me and my neighbor worked on it, and she did most of the work. She helps me a lot. And we just talk a lot. And she's always there for me, so we always talk.
Well, we have a lot of aspiring authors listening to us right now. Brian, would you have maybe some advice that you could offer them?
Just follow your dream. Whatever you have in your mind, make it real. It's not always a dream. If you really want it, it could work. It really could work. But you have to put the legwork in, but it's there for you. It really is.
Brian, when you were writing, did you find yourself maybe writing early in the morning or maybe late at night, a specific time during the day every day? Or did you find yourself sort of writing as you were feeling inspired to write?
As I was feeling inspired. Sometimes it was even all day. It happened so fast. Was complaining, no more.
So you're getting started on your next book. Is there anything that you're telling yourself, hey, I'm going to do this differently the next time around?
No, I'm just going to follow wherever he leads me. I'm not doing nothing different. I'm just following him, his voice, whatever he wants me to do. I'm a vessel. That's all I am.
So you're a published author. Are you also an avid reader?
Now I am. I never liked to read, but that's all I do now is read. I'm looking for more Christian poems. I'm just completely changed, and I do everything that I never did, and I'm happy about it. I feel better about myself. I'm even healthier. So go figure that out.
If there was one major theme, one big idea that you want every reader to take away after they've read Fountains of Faith, what would you say that is?
God is real, and he's always with you.
Well, it sounds like this book is going to bless a lot of readers. It's titled Fountains of Faith. It's written by Brian Jacobowitz, and is published by Covenant Books. So find it places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Brian, thank you again for joining me tonight and telling me all about this work. It was really nice chatting with you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to do it. Thank you.
Joining me right now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, I'm really happy to be speaking with author Christa Speicher. Christa, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
I wanted to say congratulations. You have a brand new book out. It just hit stores. It's titled Get Your Shit Together. Christa, I'm really curious about this book. Can you tell me about it?
Yes, sir. So my inspiration was that I was trying to reach more of your blue-collar type person who might not necessarily be looking for a self-help book, and then taking more of the complex psychological concepts that you might read about in other books and kind of breaking them down into plain language, but with some humor.
What was that spark? Was there something in particular that made you say, hey, I got to sit down and get started on this thing?
Well, actually, it was just a matter of, I have a YouTube channel, and I talk about that on the channel quite a bit. I went back to college for psychology in my 40s to try and figure out why I hadn't gotten my shit together yet. And it was one of those things where I thought, man, if I had had access to this, if I had known, because we can only learn from the people around us what they know. And if that's not something that they can offer us, we have to seek it out on our own. And I thought, man, if I can put this together where someone else could pick it up and not wait this long to figure it out, that would be fabulous.
So what does your writing background look like, Christa? Are you experienced in this kind of thing, or is this all kind of new ground for you?
Yeah, absolutely not experienced at all. It was more of a, boy, I hope this is okay kind of deal, because I really just did a very conversational type of book. I'd originally looked at it as potentially a coaching program. And then I thought, you know what? It's actually, if you ever looked at coaching, it can be kind of expensive. So the price point knocks some people out of it. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to make it into a book because that gives more people more access to it at a much more reasonable price. And we all should be able to live a happy, fulfilled life.
So being your first one, was this a really long journey for you overall, the writing and publishing and all?
Oh, absolutely. I actually wrote the book in 2022, and then I just kind of set it back. It was one of those things where I was like, well, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with this. And then in 2024, I was like, I'm doing it. I'm sitting down. I'm getting it done. It was my dream to put it out there, and I'm going to do it.
So once you got your manuscript all firmed up and started working with your publisher, Newman Springs, what did you find the most challenging part about that publishing end?
It would have been so daunting if I had tried to self-publish, because every aspect of it was something new to me. I knew nothing about it. And so having a publisher for the first book was amazing. And they were excellent to work with. My second book is going to be through them too.
And there's nothing like seeing that finished product after all that time and work that you put into it, Christa. So holding that first copy for the first time, what was that moment like for you?
Oh my gosh. I was taking pictures of it and sending it to all my friends. I was dancing around my house like a lunatic, like, oh my gosh, it's for real. It's really real.
Well, now it's official. You're a published author. So what's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
And this is going to sound kind of odd, but I think the most rewarding thing is how proud of me my dad is. And he's been just an amazing figure in my life. But for him, that was just, I'm the first published author in the family. And he's always told me, you're capable of so much. He used to tell me when I was little that I could be the president. So when I was able to hand him a copy of my book, that was amazing. And I've even had quite a few friends that have bought it and come up to me and are like, oh my God, it made me cry. I'm so glad you wrote this. And so it's been very rewarding. But the biggest one was the look on my dad's face when I handed it to him.
So you mentioned another book. Is that along the lines of this one? Is that kind of a follow-up to this, or are you doing some different things?
Actually, the next book is going to be very much like a follow-up to this one. It's Get Your Shit Together, the parenting edition. Because that's one thing that out of all the other stuff I couldn't get together, I did do right.
I think this book is going to help so many readers. Again, it's titled Get Your Shit Together. It's written by Christa Speicher. published by Newman Springs Publishing and available everywhere, really places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Christa, it's been great talking with you tonight and learning all about this book. Thanks again for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Sitting down with me now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, I'm happy to be speaking with author Neill G. Russell. Neill, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Corey, what an honor it is. And folks, those of you listening, I want you to hear one thing. Of all the messages that you hear out in the world today, there's only one message, and that's called truth. So that's what Corey and I are going to be talking about today. And if you want the source of truth, what's happening in this world, just listen.
Well, I just wanted to congratulate you on a new book called Newton's Riddle, The Mystery of Daniel's 70th Week Revealed. And Neill, this has some really fascinating things in it. Can you tell me about it?
Okay. So the word Daniel you just mentioned. Okay, here's the story, folks. In the Old Testament, there's a book called Daniel. And Daniel just read the book of Jeremiah. He was 86 years old at the time. Now, he was held captive ever since he was 16 years old. And he just finished reading the book of Jeremiah, which said that Israel would be held captive for 70 years. And he said, well, I was 16 when they took me. I'm 86 now. When are you going to release us? And he prayed to God, and God sent him an angel. Now, this is recorded in the book of Daniel. And chapters 9 through 12 is what Newton's Riddle is about. And so with that said, at the end of chapter 12, folks, open up your Bible to this is Daniel chapter 12, and Daniel looks up at Gabriel and said, okay, tell me what I just wrote, because he wrote down everything Gabriel told him. And Gabriel said this, it's not for you to understand. It's for those in the future when information will increase. And he made this statement, and this is where we are today, Corey. Daniel wrote this down. The wise shall understand. Now, who are the wise? Christians, I want you to hear something. If you have the Holy Spirit and you go to the Holy Spirit for information and you need that discernment, okay, that's where we are today. So the book is based upon chapters 10 through chapter 12. And one man, Corey, and he lived about 400 years ago, was 12 years old when he read the Bible for the first time, and God had this man open up to the book of Daniel, and he just read what we just read. And he looked up and said, God, Father, he called him Father. This is a true story. His name was Isaac Newton. He said, Father, am I the wise? And with that, the rest of Isaac Newton's life, he not only came up with gravity and the laws of motion and calculus, all the things that we know of him, he was asking his father, when the apple fell off the tree, Corey, how did that happen? Every detail God spoke to him, but when he was older, he wanted to find out the riddle, and that's what the book's called, in Daniel's chapter 9 through 12, of when the timing, not the day or hour, but the timing of Jesus' return. So Newton's Riddle is based upon what I just said, and it is the book that exposes every detail, folks, of everything going on in the world today.
Wow, this is fascinating. And I know Israel is a big part of this, so can you tell me how that plays into it?
Good question. So, folks, God made a promise to Abraham, and that covenant is the reason I'm living today, Corey, and you're living today. A covenant is from God, and he doesn't break it. That the land that I'm going to give you and your descendants, and again, I'm 100% Jewish, folks, every grain of sand in Israel God gave to the descendants of Abraham. He said, if anybody gives any of that land away, then curses will come upon them. Now, Newton's Riddle is based upon what Isaac Newton studied, the timing when Israel will become a nation again, and also where we are today, because right now, with everything going on in the news, the center of the news now is Israel. And the war that we had on October 7th, 2 years ago, was the Psalm 83 war. You'll see all the nations that came against Israel, all of them. That's the devil's plan.
Well, what an important book. Again, this is titled Newton's Riddle, The Mystery of Daniel's 70th Week Revealed. This is written by Neill G. Russell, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available pretty much everywhere, like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores.
Neill, thank you so much for coming on the show and telling me all about this. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you so much, Corey.
This book is a charming tale of father-daughter relationships. It's written by Ashlie Romney, and it's titled Never Trust a Dad. We're going to be talking all about this. Ashlie is sitting here with me right now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Ashlie, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I can't wait to find out about Never Trust a Dad, Ashlie. Can you tell me all about it?
I definitely can. Never Trust a Dad is about a relationship between a father and a daughter. And I think what's fun about this book is that it kind of shows it in two perspectives. The daughter is the one telling the story, but we're also seeing the dad along for the journey. And it's so fun. I think especially as parents, we don't really get to look at the relationship through our child's eyes. And through the child, I don't think we get to see our relationship with our parents through their eyes. And I think that's what makes this book so fun, is we get to see it from the beginning all the way up to adulthood. And it's been such a fun thing to put together.
So what was that spark, Ashlie? What made you say, hey, I'm going to get started on this?
You know, my daughter is the one that sparked it. It's so funny. We were coming home from a cabin trip, and we had to stop and get ice cream. And she was complaining because she's like, oh, Dad said he was going to take a lick, and he took a bite of my ice cream. And it just shot back so much memories of my own dad, because he would always do that. He wouldn't take a lick. He would take a bite. And I just remember, I was like, oh, no. I'm like, you trusted your dad. You never trusted Dad. And that was where it was like, oh, that would be a really cool book title. And that's what sparked it, was my daughter.
Prior to this, Ashlie, have you written or been published at all?
I haven't. Nope, this is my first book.
Wow, congratulations. So being your first one, this is all new ground for you. Was this a long journey, the writing and publishing and everything?
Yes. It's been a really long process, but it's been fun. Like, it's definitely had its ups and downs, but I've learned a lot, and it's been really, really fun. I've enjoyed it.
Something really important about a book like this is the illustrations. So was that a smooth process to get that worked out exactly the way you wanted?
Oh my goodness, no. That was so hard. I think this is why it took so long, is because I'm a perfectionist. And when you're not physically there to watch, and you get pieces sent to you every couple weeks, you know, it's so hard to be like, it's fine, when you look at something and it's like, this is bugging me. But the publishing company was so nice to work with, and the publicist that was with me, she would tell me, she'd be like, okay, why are we slowing down? What's the problem? And I'd be like, this page is just bugging me. And she would look at it and be like, oh, this is what I don't like. This is what I don't like. This is what I don't like. And it was like, oh, that's what I wanted to say, but I don't want to hurt people's feelings. And she's like, nope, we'll fix it. And they were so fun and easy to work with.
I can only imagine what you were thinking and feeling whenever you finally got to hold that book for the first time and it was a real thing, Ashlie. What was that like for you?
Oh, my goodness. So surreal. I remember when it first came, I kept telling my husband, I'm like, it's so big. It's just so big. And he was like, I don't understand what you mean, because I had only got to see it through a computer screen. So to see it as an actual book, it was just so weird. So, and that's all I could say. I'm like, it's just so big. And now it's something that always catches my eye, and I'm very proud of it.
So it's official. You're a published author now. So when you think about that, Ashlie, what's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
I think the most rewarding part is that I did a hard thing, because I'm really a shy person that doesn't really do scary things. And to me, this was really scary. This was a big risk that I had to take. And I think that's been the best thing that came out of it, was I did something hard. And it wasn't easy, but I did it.
Oh, what a wonderful book. Again, it's titled Never Trust a Dad. It's written by Ashlie Romney and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So you can find it places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes, also traditional brick and mortar stores. Well, Ashlie, it's been really wonderful talking with you tonight and learning all about Never Trust a Dad. Thanks again for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I've had so much fun.
The new book, written by Peter N. Gitau, It's an exploration of true freedom through faith. It's titled Overcoming the Spirit of Slavery. And Peter is joining me right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We're going to be talking all about this. Peter, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Peter, can you tell me what you've written about in Overcoming the Spirit of Slavery?
All right. This is a book that just came up very recently, actually this January. It's about overcoming the spirit of slavery, as the title suggests. This book is looking into historically groups of people that have been under slavery, namely children of Israel and African Americans, and even modern-day slavery, which affects all kinds of people, and trying to show what kind of lessons that we can learn from their journeys that we can apply today to help us with our journey to overcoming the spirit of slavery, because it still exists. It is well and alive. And therefore, this book is looking into slavery existing in two phases, spiritual and physical, both spiritual and physical things. And many people fight historically fought to be free physically, but remain bound spiritually. An example is the children of Israel. They were slaves in the land of Egypt for so many years, about 400 years, and all the time crying to come out of Egypt. And miraculously, God rescued them from that land of bondage, and they became free people. They crossed the Red Sea, and they became free people. They spent so many years in the desert, in the wilderness, not going to the land of freedom, Canaan, where they were supposed to go, but trying to go back to the land of Egypt to be slaves again, probably to apologize to Pharaoh and the Egyptians and say, this was a mistake. We're not supposed to have run away. We're supposed to have been your slaves forever. So what made them want to go back when they had been so set free? What made them want to go back? It is because spiritually they were still tied, bound, and that spirit of slavery still hovered over their lives. And it confused them, and it told them, no, you're not supposed to be free. You're making a mistake. Go back. You're supposed to be slaves. You and children and your descendants, you're supposed to be slaves forever. And therefore, this book is exploring us, saying there is partial freedom, which could be just physical freedom. But then total freedom too exists, which is spiritual and physical freedom. And therefore, it is exploring us to fight spiritual, to be free spiritually. Some people may not even be free physically. Maybe they could be doing life in jail without possibility of parole, but they could still benefit by being free spiritually.
So, Peter, how did this book come about? What gave you the idea to start it?
It just, first of all, it started to me as a financial, economic thing. I had come from Africa. I got a job here earning minimum wage, and I started working very hard, and I was getting very tired. And I could just be paid the minimum wage, and then the end of the month would come, and all the bills would take everything, and it kind of left me with nothing. And that kind of went on for months, and I started wondering, am I being a slave, an economic slave here, or what is going on? Because I work so hard. I wake up every day, but at the end of the day, I bring nothing, But things got better that way, that I got another jobs and all, and I get to know the country better. But still, the idea of slavery did not go away. I went to the libraries. I read some history books about slavery. I read the Bible. And that idea just never went away, kept coming back. And so I stopped even thinking too much about now financial slavery here, but started thinking about spiritual and all kinds of slavery. So that's how this idea came about. The idea of slavery would just not go away.
Now, when it comes to writing and being published, are you experienced in this, or is this all new ground for you?
This is absolutely new ground for me. This is my very first book.
Well, it sounds like so many readers will find freedom in the pages of this book. Again, it's titled Overcoming the Spirit of Slavery. It's written by Peter N. Gitau and published by Christian Faith Publishing. It's available at places like Amazon, and Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Peter, it's been really nice talking with you tonight and finding out about this book. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it very much. I'm
looking at a book right now that's an empowering guide to thriving in retirement. It's written by Byron Whisler, and it's titled Staying Alive in Later Life. Byron's wife, Victoria, is here with me now at the show, and we're going to talk all about this book. Victoria, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Corey, and thank you. I'm excited to talk about Byron's book and his passion.
I'm excited about it too, Victoria. So can you tell me what it's all about?
Yeah, so Byron had just a passion for what to do in your later years because he was a forever young kind of guy. And so this book actually is a guide to help people to start asking those questions because a lot of times we aren't prepared. And so asking those preparation questions as to what are we going to do in life after retirement? Because he was a firm believer in retiring to something and making sure you're prepared for that phase and not retiring from something like some of us get when we're like burnt out and just want to give it up and we don't have a plan in place.
Victoria, what sort of a reading audience did you have in mind?
So he really wanted to focus on organizations, first of all, to prepare anybody that was in their workforce. So a lot of whatever organizations would need some kind of training and making sure that this book would help to start giving workshops for organizations, as well as just anybody that's thinking about, okay, maybe in age 40 years old even, before you get to that retirement age, what I'm thinking about retiring, what would that look like to start preparing yourself and really thinking about what that would look like when you retired, because he did have that spring training mindset reset with this book, where he talked about, because of his in-depth research and then with his work with his MBA at Pepperdine and also with USC gerontology, with those projects, he incorporated in there because he made it very succinct, like guideposts on your attitudes, working on attitudes, identities, finding meaning and purpose, finding that preparation for change, also working on income. A lot of people aren't prepared financially when they get to that point. And now, more than ever, where we live longer, we don't want to outlive our income. So making sure those things are put in place as well. And then a well-designed legacy plan.
So prior to this, had Byron written or been published?
Yes, he was published one other time. It was called A Cheerful Boomer Journey, Staying Alive While Living Longer, because, again, it's that same idea where you want to be living life and enjoying life. And a lot of times when you're doing that, it does take some planning and preparation for getting to that point. So he was really targeted on that. So that was his first book. And then this was his second book.
Do you know what that spark was, what that inspiration was for him to get started on this?
Yes. He got his MBA about in the 1990s, and his mentor was Dr. Symes and from the Pepperdine University. And he was very fortunate to have that mentor and then have that mentor put him on the project for getting him ready for what they were looking at as lifelong expectancy and retirement. And so then once he heard about that and started working on that research project at Pepperdine, then he kind of had some self-reflection and was like, well, I don't think I'm prepared, because Byron, if you knew Byron was a forever kid. And he really, people just were so drawn to him because he just had such an enthusiasm, almost childlike enthusiasm for life. And so that forever young kind of mentality was there all the way up until, the very end for him. So he was just amazing. So when he looked at that going, whoa, I need to start incorporating these plans into my own life, then that's what happened. And so he just thought that that was his purpose in life, to prepare people. And he actually prepared our kids, and grandkids. So yeah, he did a great job with that.
Again, this book is titled Staying Alive in Later Life. It's written by Byron Whisler and published by Christian Faith Publishing. You can find it everywhere, really, like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Victoria, it has been really wonderful talking with you tonight and learning about Byron's story. Thanks so much for joining me again.
Thank you, Corey, and I hope everybody is as excited to read this book as he was as to write it.
I'm really delighted to be talking again with author James Canfield Jr. here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. James, welcome. Thanks for returning.
Hi, it's my pleasure, trust me.
I'm really happy to have you back, and I have to congratulate you on a new book out titled Having Faith in the Promises of Christ. So, James, can you tell me all about this?
Well, as you know from our first conversation, the first book was more about me trying to wrap my head around the fact that God loved me, and so kind of catharsis for me. This book, I just felt compelled to write because I'm a minister, and I run into people all the time that are struggling with their faith, struggling with it. And so the Lord put it on my heart to start thinking about this. And actually, I had been thinking about it for about 6 months. And the Lord just sort of said, wait a minute, let's stop this. You need to do what I'm asking you to do. And so he cleared the way, and it just started flowing.
Were you writing for maybe a different group of readers this time around?
Yes. The first time around, it was for people still struggling, trying to figure out themselves. This one is specifically targeted to people who already believe, who've already given their heart to Jesus, but now find themselves in predicaments, the hills and the valleys. And that's why the chapters are all titled in ways that we have to deal with understanding our faith and making that faith stronger. So it's targeted for the people who've already given their life, who already had started out with faith, and now are getting slammed in the face by the enemy, trying to convince them that what they did was stupid.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people out there right now who are like that, so definitely this is needed.
Yeah.
So once you started on this, James, was this a long journey for you, the writing and publishing, or did this all get down pretty quickly for you?
Well, as I said, it was put on my heart for about 6 months before I actually started writing it. I sat down a little bit here, a little bit there, nothing seemed to work, and I kept putting it off. And then the Lord just straightened it out. He sat me down. Believe it or not, I was still working and being a pastor part-time. And so he put a pause on that and literally locked me away in my house for 30 days. And when I gave up, a song that really triggered it for me, it's called A God Problem. That was playing one day and it just clicked. And I said, you're right. It's your problem. It's not my problem. And the moment I did that, it just started flowing, chapter after chapter, and literally was written in about 30 to 40 days.
And I love the cover to this. It's very beautiful. Did that all come together pretty quickly for you?
It did. And it's interesting how this cover came about. The publisher said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, this is what I want you to tell the artists for this. I said, have them, because they've already probably read a little bit of the book, have them, though, read the scriptures that I'm quoting throughout this book and then pray on it. And then whatever they come up with, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be pleased with it. And that's how that cover came about.
Oh, wow. So you're published now and you have your work out there for the world, James. So when you think about all of that, what's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
What has been rewarding for me is that I have had people who have read the book and have encountered me, and they talk about how I seem to be speaking to them in what I was writing. And as always, I don't take credit for that. I always said, this was an inspiration from the Holy Spirit to me. So I'm glad that it spoke to you, but this was the Spirit working through me to be in front of you with this book, and I'm glad that it's helped you. And so that's been the rewarding thing for me. It hasn't been the income part of this at all. It's listening to people that are talking about how it changed them, how it gave them hope. And that's my whole takeaway there.
What a fantastic message. Again, this is titled Having Faith in the Promises of Christ. It's written by James Canfield Jr., published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available everywhere, really places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and right down the street at your local bookshop as well. James, it's been great talking with you again. Thanks again for joining me.
It's been my pleasure. And hey, I think I said this last time, and I mean this from my heart. I pray always for you, your family, and that you continue to walk in the Lord and be strong, my brother. Thank you for being willing to interview me again.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. We hope to see you back here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.